This video gives an overview of Blender video editing, and one of the reasons I believe we need an overview is because you get many videos that goes into one element. For example, doing a mask. Where do they all fit in? How do they connect? And if you know the overall connection between all of them, the elements, then you will understand better perhaps where to find your way around in Blender video editing, and it will become less strange. The two things that will help you to find your way around in Blender video editing, and that will give you a good foundation to do on your own some other minor. One thing is the screen layout, which we've done in a previous video, and the second thing is the process that Blender follows to produce ultimately a video. Now, the process can be described as a 6-part process. Add an object to your video by going to the video sequencing screen. Then you go down to the add bottom menu, and here you see the various elements that you can add to your video, to your final product. Can be effects, sounds, images. But you first add, of course, maybe image, picture, photo, or a movie. You will see the side stands use movie frame rate, rather the selected if it will be selected, but the default is usually that it is not selected, because if you use the new movies frame rate, for example, it is 23, while you work with a movie of 29 frame rates per second, then it will throw out everything. So I would say this must be deselected, and I will deselect it also in my starter files. Then you have here where you can set the channel. Usually it automatically loads channel 1, but maybe you want to insert whatever you let it start at channel number 2 or 3 or whatever. Then you can set it here instead of now going into the movie and the thing's already loaded, go to the extra trouble and change the position of the movie or object or whatever. Sometimes if you go to your directory and then you do not see all the folders, and what you do in that case is you must just click again on documents here to make visible all the folders in your on your computer or where you work. And then you go and in this case just load video, and the movie or object will load on the frame that you put your cursor. In this instance, it is cursor number 0. When you load a movie consisting out of a video file and an audio file, just see to it that the lengths here are exactly the same. Sometimes the lengths of these two strips are not the same. Then it is because of the frame rate that the imported movie does not correspond with your existing frame rate. So see to it then that you will have them to adapt and make other provisions for that. If you, when you always load a movie for the first time, you just select it, and that's unfortunately the thing with Blender. You just have to set your proxy codes. I usually set it to 25. Okay, and then rebuild your proxy codes. They rebuild, and it will, if you do not rebuild it, it will make the appearance of this and the loading of your whole project very heavy on your system, and it will become extremely slow. You go then only when you do the first load the first video, go to properties, and then set the proxy rendering size the same that you have done with your first video, and it's only necessary that you put this proxy rendering here the first time you load the movie. The other times it's not necessary. When you load the video part of the movie, you just see to it that in this case, of course, make a lot of editing, voice editing, that you also draw the WAV file. When you add the movie, also see to it that the dimensions and the resolutions correspond with your set resolutions, so that when you import a movie, that it fits nice within the frame of your template. Sometimes it seems to me that these, even why the original dimension is different from your template, that it imports very nicely without a problem. And but if it does not import very well, then you usually have these black stripes along the side, or the picture is distorted. To add an image works exactly the same. Image is a picture or a photo. Just you can, if you want to select all, you can toggle. Remember that Blender is virtually, you can say, driven by shortcuts. The settings this side are exactly more or less the same that you have when you're importing a video. I just want to import this to demonstrate something. This when you import a picture, it sometimes happens that the picture is distorted. All you do then is you check here image offset, and then the picture is alright. If you are going to manipulate the picture with a transform tool, then sometimes you need to click the image offset, because the scaling, everything happens on the screen itself, and it is often been corrected by the transform tool. I will say to save the file is so important in Blender that immediately after you uploaded and added your first object, then you save it. The reason is because if you don't have a directory in which you save your project file, it sometimes happens that, from experience I know, that if you then, before this, you named your file and save it, you try to rebuild your proxy in timecode indices, then your file just disappears and you must load everything and do everything all over again. At the start of, when you even start planning your project, you create a directory for the project in which you put all the files that you will use, images, videos, music, etc. And then ultimately, if you find when you start working on Blender, then you just upload things from the directory. You save then your Blender file as file, save as, and you go then to that directory where it is. In the case also the same applies here. If you can't see the directories, go up and then just maybe click on document, and then you see it. And if you want to make a copy of your file, that Blender file that you're working with, save it as a copy. The reason is that save it as a copy, don't go and use a Windows copy programs. The reason is that you will see here that these files and movies that you import, they are basically referred to. Here they are. They are linked to the path, and even the music files, everything is linked. It's linked. You don't. It's not the whole file that's here, as far as I can determine, but it's linked. These files are linked. So if you just go and rename, even sometimes your directory or your file and copy, these links are broken, and then you will have to re-link it and go to all that trouble. So I will say, want to copy the file, even if you have a new directory, into a new directory, use the Blender facilities from File, Save Copy, and then give it a new name. And you give it a, you can here give it a new name. The next step in the process is to select the objects that you imported. To select the whole strip, just click in the middle and then just G and move it on your keypad. The other things, if you want to click, select the handles, click, right click into the handles, G for grab, and then move it sideways as you want to expand it. And that also applies for the other handle. Right click into the handles, G grab, and then move it. You can also select, and that's very helpful, the select menu here at the bottom, especially when you start editing with a lot of elements. Select all strips to the left or the right. It works very nice to select all of them, and then simply to grab them, G, and then move them as a unit to wherever you want them to be. In addition, to the shortcuts you use for selection, you use the select menu so that you, with the sub elements such as select all strips to the left or the right. These selections are very handy when you edit the program. You manipulate the object in relation to itself by shortening it and then also maybe move it around and determining its priority, where it must be viewed, number one priority, or maybe one must be moved above the other one. You also then, part of that manipulation is where you see it here in this menu on the strip section, which says here cut that frame, cut soft cut, mute strips or remove gaps, etc. And this is then what Blender puts there for you to manipulate. If you want to manipulate the strip in relation to itself, you use the strip menu, of course. Then the second thing is that you need, you can add the strip effect. As strip effect color, you can add text to a strip, you can add speed to a strip, and then the third way you manipulate a strip is via the windows, property windows of the strip. If you want to change the color, it's not simply like you may expect right click, left click, and then a mini menu comes up, such as the case of MS Word, where you can do changes. Now, do changes in relation to a strip, go to the strip, use the strip menu for this, use the add menu, add the strip effect for this there, and the third thing is you use the windows, property windows of the strip. Many of these strips have their own peculiarities. For example, most of these strips must overlap, especially when you transition, when making transition, some of them, and then transform strip must always hide the bottom respective view strip that you use in a transform strip, and when you invoke the transform tool, it is automatically hidden. But it means, of course, that you must have the transform tool, which is an add-on. You must have it installed, and you get that, download that from the internet. You also get some less familiar icons, such as the eye, which means the function is disabled or enabled or disabled, and also then a lock, where you lock a certain function into position. Another element of the process is where you manipulate strips in relation to each other. For example, you determine which strip must come, its position on the keyboard, its position, as well as its relation in terms of any other strip maybe on top of it, maybe below it. And when working with the objects, you often find the X and the Y axis. These axes work with units, and these units are not, for example, centimeters, millimeters. You have to fix units is blender units. So you must experiment how far it works. 35, is it 50, is it 2, is it 3? And then these units are also has a negative side, negative X and negative Y. When you work in the video sequence editor window, it is possible, and it sometimes happens that you can, by clicking this use backdrop, you can see here where the frame is now to play out. Sometimes if you import a movie, it automatically, it happened once, activate this use backdrop button. I personally find it a nuisance because it corresponds with the preview button. You just switch it off here. When you will finally make your video, ensure that the number here indicated in the end frame button, that this number is in fact correspond with this frame number here in this button where the video ends in reality. If these two do not correspond, it means you will get either video that's off, or if this number is far much longer and actually extends to here to 44 seconds or 44 minutes, then you will have a short area of the screen that is filled, but then the rest will just have black openings. Also, when you finally make your video, you can, of course, a final video when it's just for drafting purposes, you just want to check a draft, are there any holes in things that should not come out right. You can put it 40% to render your final product. I usually make it 100%, or you can even make it 80, or you can make it 80%. Just be careful also that sometimes happens when you import videos that you get a message that it does not want to render, to animate, because there's a border involved. And then because Blender are not set to render with borders, then you must just deselect. Of course, I could have said much more, and maybe could have said other things too, but Blender is a very big program, and this is just a short overview. Thank you very much for watching this video. If you love constructive comments, please like and share this video.